Welcome to this explainer. Right out of the gate, we're breaking down a pretty wild concept: why your intense desire to be creative is actually the exact thing stopping you from mastering a new skill. I mean, we've all been there, right? You buy that shiny new guitar, you pour your absolute heart into it for a solid week, and then it just ends up collecting dust in the corner. You just can't seem to break through to that next level. Well, you're definitely not alone, and today we're gonna figure out exactly why that happens.
Let's kick things off with a painfully relatable question posed by the source text. Why do so many of us pick up a new instrument, a new language, or even start a whole new business, only to hit a massive wall and eventually just quit? We start 1,000 different things with all this incredible enthusiasm, but we master almost none of them.
The text argues that we've essentially been sold a toxic lie. It's this incredibly pervasive idea that following the rules is just for the uninspired, and that you absolutely have to be unique and creative from day one. We tell ourselves that original thinking is everything, but honestly, a lot of the time, that early originality is really just a mask. It's our ego being a bit too lazy to do the grueling, unglamorous work of mastering the basics.
Which brings us to Section 1, the lie of early creativity and the cautionary tale. We're going to look at exactly how this obsession with being original right out of the gate actually destroys your foundation. The text shares the story of a guy named Yamato. Now, Yamato was absolutely obsessed with becoming a samurai, so he picks up a wooden sword and practices completely alone for an entire year. He was trying so hard to innovate, making up these complex moves he'd seen the real masters do, but his solo creativity backfired completely. Because he was just making things up as he went along, the only thing he actually achieved was cementing his own mistakes. He literally spent a full year just teaching his body how to fail better. Since Yamato totally skipped the hard work of building a foundation, his efforts are compared to an impossible architectural feat. The text puts it perfectly. It was like he was trying to build a castle from the roof down. He completely skipped the one and only thing that actually matters when you're just starting out. All right, Section 2, Shu and the Death of Ego. So to fix this fatal flaw in how we approach learning, the text introduces us to SHUHARI. This is an ancient Japanese martial arts framework, and it was originally designed to transform everyday peasants into highly lethal warriors. It's a deeply structured, heavily tested path to mastery. But here's the catch. It demands that you completely kill your creativity right at the very beginning of your journey. No exceptions. The SHUHARI framework breaks down into 3 very distinct, non-negotiable stages. First up is Shu, which means to blindly obey the rules. Next is Ha, where you finally begin to adapt. And third is Ri, where you completely transcend the technique altogether. The real focus of our text today is that very first stage, Shu. And look, this stage is tough. It requires the absolute, deeply uncomfortable death of your ego. You essentially have to take your burning desire to be special, put it on a box, and lock it away for a while. During the Shu stage, the rules are incredibly strict. You have to find a master, and you must obsessively copy every single detail. We are talking microscopic stuff here, matching their exact breathing patterns, the precise placement of their feet. You don't think, you don't question, and you absolutely, under no circumstances, improvise. Now let's be real. It's gonna feel boring. It will feel robotic. Your ego is gonna be screaming at you, telling you you're losing your identity. But you have to completely ignore that voice. Shu is all about obeying until your physical body actually understands what your conscious mind just can't grasp yet. Let's move right into Section 3, the neuroscience of repetition. Now you might be thinking, okay, this sounds like some outdated folklore, but it's not. Researchers at the University of Tokyo actually found the hard neuroscience that proves exactly why this rigid repetition physically works. They discovered that when you repeat a specific, exact movement somewhere between 300 and 500 times, your neurons finally start to create a permanent, automated pattern. Your brain is literally physically wiring that exact movement right into its circuitry. And when you consistently push through and hit that golden number of 1,000 correct repetitions, a really amazing shift happens. The skill literally migrates right out of your conscious mind and directly into the brain's automatic system. You don't even have to think about doing it anymore. Your body just instinctively reacts, which completely frees up your brain power for higher level strategy. It's a total game changer. But there is a massive catch here. If you try to get creative and tweak the movement before you hit that critical threshold, that neural pattern never actually forms. Jumping into early creativity just leaves you totally trapped in what they call conscious mode. And conscious mode is slow, it's exhausting, and it is highly prone to error. Basically, by trying to be a unique snowflake way too early, you completely short-circuit your brain's ability to automate the skill. Which brings us to a really profound, albeit harsh, truth from the text. This is one you really need to let sink in. Variety is where discipline and mastery go to die. Modern society constantly conditions us to crave variety, right? Keep things fresh, keep things interesting. But when it comes to the strict pursuit of true mastery, variety is absolutely poison. So why is variety so dangerous? Well, because every single time you change up your routine, your brain is forced to make all these little micro decisions. Decisions like, should I do this exercise or that one today? And those tiny little choices are the exact cracks where your old lazy habits leak right back in. When you just eliminate the option to choose, you free up your mind to finally notice the invisible foundational details that beginners are usually way too distracted to even see. All right, moving along to section 4, the 100-day mastery challenge. Let's transition from the science into some practical application. The text issues a direct challenge for anyone listening who is just sick and tired of being mediocre. The challenge is to master the kata, which basically translates to perfect form. And how do you do this? By performing the exact same training sequence with absolutely zero variation for at least 100 days straight. You have to totally surrender to the repetition. Here are the incredibly strict rules for this challenge. First, you pick one single skill, just one. Second, you find a master or a proven system to follow. Third, absolutely zero variations allowed. No adaptations, no doing it your way, just pure, perfect imitation. And finally, the big one, you must declare your commitment publicly. Now, why is that final rule about going public so crucial? It's actually a brilliant psychological hack. When you declare a goal publicly, your brain literally interprets the potential for social failure as a survival threat. It's a deeply ingrained biological response, and it drastically increases your odds of actually sticking to this rigid path when things inevitably get really boring. And honestly, here is the most beautiful irony of this whole thing. By totally sacrificing your ego and copying perfectly right now during that shoe stage, the originality you were so desperately craving at the very beginning actually becomes inevitable. True originality naturally blossoms once you've put in the time being a perfect copy. It allows you to organically reach those later stages of ha, where you finally adapt, and re, where you completely transcend the rules. So, I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative thought from today's explainer to chew on. Look inward, stop trying to be so incredibly special on day one, and ask yourself, what is the one single skill you are going to publicly commit to mastering for the next 100 days?